Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week. It's Friday night and of course this is the one place to come if you want to be judged, because that's what we do. It's our speciality. We are extremely judgmental, so if you don't like that, you won't like this. But most people do. Jeremy Kyle is here, Alex Phillips is here, Candice Holdsworth is here, Russell Quirk is here. Welcome to all of you. We're getting very close to Christmas now, so there's a lot of turkeys around. Who have you got for us first?
I've got a complete turkey, and I think if you name Sadiq Khan, it doesn't matter what he's done over a week, he should just
get him on the show.
Plank because he is Sadiq Khan. I remember that story some weeks ago about advertising on the tube. I woke up one day this week to hear, genuinely, that he's going to get a knighthood.
Yes, Sir Sadiq Khan.
Sir Sadiq Khan, a man who rails against everything to do with, I think, the House of the Lords and heritage and patronage and everything about this great country of ours. He wants to be part of that. And you sit there and you think, so I wonder who sort of thought this would be a good idea. Certainly not the London cabbie drivers who have destroyed, their lives have been destroyed by this ridiculous man. London has the highest proportion of knife crime in the United Kingdom, possibly in some of the biggest cities in the world. This man's done absolutely nothing. He provides all these diversity jobs and all this, I don't know, I cannot get my head round. Was this Starmer again? Is it that in between flying off somewhere?
I think it's believed to be in Starmer's New Year's honours list.
And what is that? Is that if that's true? Is that to placate Sadiq Khan, who probably doesn't think that Keir Starmer goes far enough?
Well, there was a time when Sadiq Khan fancied himself as leader of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
So maybe he's trying to keep him at bay and just
Sir
keep him.
Sadiq Khan.
Sir, doesn't even sound right, does it?
No.
Sir Sadiq.
Does anybody on the panel think that Sadiq Khan deserves a knighthood?
Nope.
No. Well, you struggle.
I think we should deport him.
You genuinely struggle to think of any
What's a tooting?
achievement, any accolade.
No, not tooting. No, Croydon.
No, can you genuinely think, I mean, even if you would try hard and try not to be biased towards Sadiq Khan, as I am, can you actually think of any achievement, any success or any accolade that man has achieved in his 9 years?
He only had 1 million votes out of 12 million Londoners to get another 4 years. I think it's an absolute disgrace.
And there's a new sort of petition that's doing the rounds, which has already got 160,000 people.
It's not going to make any difference.
Which I know, there's a lot, but people are trying to sort of try this new form of open democracy.
Has anybody signed the anti-Sadiq?
I haven't seen it, to be honest, but 160,000 people, it'll probably get up to 500,000, which is not a bad number. But he seems completely and utterly
bomb-proof,
immune to any kind of criticism. He doesn't seem to care. He doesn't listen. You know, when he gets asked about the knife crime stats and why he's not done anything about them, he goes on about sort of all of the things that basically he's done to make the streets of London safer. And the streets of London aren't safer.
No, they're not.
They're more bleeding dangerous than they've ever been.
He'll do what they all do, and he'll go, we need more community centres, and it's because people live in, poverty. And to me, that's like the ultimate insult you can say to a working class person who's never committed a crime and never dealt drugs and never stolen somebody's phone or handbag. That's just a cop-out. I can't think that Sadiq Khan's done anything that you go, do you know what? He's made a difference. It's made no bloody difference to London. Sorry for the
Well, he has actually. He's made it a lot worse, hasn't he?
Only negative differences.
I've got a little reel for you, a magic reel, and this is of all Sadiq Khan's achievements. Have a look.
How long is it?
Is it blank?
He also, of course, I think that was made in-house, that. So,
but Old Lang Syne to him, he's not proud to be.
But don't forget, this is the same guy who now sells tickets to the fireworks, right? And the fireworks on New Year's Eve
sells them.
They sell tickets to it. You have to buy a ticket, right? You're not allowed to drink. You're not allowed to go and have take a beverage with you. You have to stand in this kind of pen for hours and hours and hours on end.
You live in London, you pay your taxes, and you get penned in, and you can't watch the fireworks for free. But you can arrive in London via Dover on a boat, and you can have whatever the hell you want.
Yeah,
but as we know from year after year, those fireworks are just a subtle, or not so subtle, tribute to him himself, aren't they?
Oh, they
the messages that go up.
Remember the European ones?
The European
pro-European stuff, Anyway.
I hate him, and he shouldn't have a knighthood. He's the plank of the decade.
He really is. Well, we're going to do Plank of the Year soon, so you'll figure in that. But anyway, tell us about the BBC this week.
Well, good old question time. Never one to miss the opportunity to have some sort of plant in the audience. Did you see the most recent? Well, not the most recent, the one before the most recent.
Yeah.
And that geezer who was just like, migrants are so lovely. They're all refugees. It's so beautiful. They enrich us. They're nuclear scientists and they're doctors, and we must have them all. And we're sort of like, attacking Nigel Farage. And you just look at him and you think, people like you don't really exist.
No, you're a construct.
I've never met one of you in real life.
Well, let's have a look at what he said.
40,000 is a speck in the ocean.
Oh, let them all come in.
And every asylum speaker that I've ever spoken to, everybody's come here because of asylum. They're not coming here for a better life.
Oh, yeah.
The majority of them are coming for a life.
For a life?
A life?
No, then don't.
They're coming from France.
All the way, yeah.
Coming for a life that gives them a
France.
free hotel and money and not a tent on a beach. What is it? Who's in then?
Well, this is it.
Idiot.
Well, as soon as you get one of those, you're like, these people don't exist other than in, like, you know, Alistair Campbell's
Then he
wet
came
dreams.
from a really
So he
privileged
must
background.
be related to that. So there I was, getting out my organogram and all that. Oh, of course. He writes for the New European.
Well, he
from time
wrote.
to
Well,
time.
I think actually they went to find him and then got him to write for the New European. I don't think he actually writes for the New European.
Doesn't matter. I hate that paper.
Yeah,
It's
I get
awful.
that.
They once did this big article on me, basically
Yeah.
saying I'm scarier than Hitler.
Right.
They might be correct, but
Well,
that's not the point.
I was added into their list this year.
Yeah, me too.
You've sworn.
There you
I
go.
think, where were you on it?
I
What
was
number?
43.
Nah, I was 30-something.
There you go. Well, you are younger
I'm
than
on
me.
it. I'm
Yeah.
disappointed.
I know, it's an honour, really.
Kevin O'Sullivan's very upset. He wasn't on the list at all.
Yeah, that's only because you rang him up and had him removed.
I'm climbing
But we
up the
do
ranks.
keep talking about the question time audience, don't we? We've talked about it several times on the basis it's supposed to be representative and balanced, but you never see the equivalent of red jumper guy there on the right, do you?
No.
You only ever see
There was a woman.
the vocalising,
There was a woman
aggressive-
on that
Yeah,
episode
that
who
one.
actually said, you know, I don't believe in asylum. I don't think we should be giving anything to.
Yeah.
And there was sort of
Pull up the
owls of
drawbridge.
derision. Oh my God! You know, it was like
Do you know what
somebody
I
who
always
literally
think about-
said, you know, we're going to kill everybody in the room.
You always think about programmes like that, which you made a really good point, which is that's not symptomatic of what's going on in
Have
our
you ever
country.
met one of them in real life?
No, but one of them howls around this room, around every... people would have watched that and gone, what the hell are you talking about, mate? And yet the BBC continue to think that is what we think. We don't
But that
think
is-
that.
No, they
No,
do.
like-
BBC employees definitely do, but we
Well,
don't.
this
The
is
rest of the country
thing.
don't.
Where do they find
We're
these
paying their
people?
wages.
It is amazing.
We are.
But Nigel Farage also has been doing some of his own networking as well. He was interviewed by Beth Rigby this week, and he got a bit touchy with her.
And this is why, you know, mainstream media like you are losing the affections of the British public. Let's worry about where we are today. Let's worry about where the country's going. Let's worry about the fact we're getting poorer. Let's worry about the fact that our communities are breaking down, that people are scared to walk on the streets of London wearing
That
a watch
wasn't my
or jewellery.
question.
No,
My-
no, I know.
what
and
I'm
you're
asking
talking.
you-
You're talking about an inside Westminster story that you want to talk about.
He's right.
He's
though.
absolutely right. And, of course, ordinary people outside of the Westminster bubble watching that are going, yeah, he's right. He's absolutely
I
right.
rail against doing London stories so much on the show because there is a whole country north of Watford Gap and north of the M25, and those people, it's a bit. I always use.
Says he who just nominated Sadiq Khan.
No.
I was going to say that, but I thought I'd let him off.
All right, you. But the point I'm making is, it's supposed to be the whole country. That's how Trump won because it wasn't about Washington. It was about Middle America. Till politicians wise up, they're in trouble.
These people don't realise that working class people.
Mm.
They've just had the shock of their lifetime because they've just discovered there's such a thing as farmers.
Right.
There are people who drive tractors in the UK.
They thought that the food just came from Waitrose.
Yeah.
They didn't know how it got to Waitrose.
So they all
They
shop
didn't
at
realise.
Waitrose.
Most of them do, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
What,
Whole
the
Foods
unwashed?
now, they sort of.
Where do you shop?
I go to farmers market. I buy straight from British farmers.
Mostly
Yes, I do.
cider.
Mostly cider.
Yeah.
And some bones.
Candice, over to you. You got Rachel Reeves for us.
Yes, our excellent
Or Rachel
Chancellor.
Thieves.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it's amazing, amazing.
III.
The
Yeah.
epithets. She's
There
got
he is.
some-
There he is, Richard III. There he is, the Chancellor.
She also is the female version of Keir Starmer, isn't she, as well?
Why have they all
Rebecca.
got like hairstyles like Lego people?
I know.
Is it me or is she looking more and more? Is she just getting lower and lower in her seat and looking more and more scared and hacked off with life on a daily basis?
Ever since the economy took a header off a cliff, she's not really very keen to be seen very much anymore.
Funny that.
Yeah, well, her appearance at the CBI, she looked nervous in front of all those business leaders, and apparently it
Big
was
step
flat.
up from a filing clerk to an economist.
Well,
You know what I mean?
there you go. So she's had some good news once again. Mortgage rates have jumped because of her budget. Basically, lenders are anticipating the inflationary effects of her budget. I can tell you now, if this had been Liz Truss or any other Conservative, they would have accused her of crashing the economy.
Yeah.
There would have been calls for her to resign, but absolute crickets. from Labour at the moment.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's a huge open goal, and I don't feel the Conservatives are landing a blow on them, which is crazy.
Yeah, they've done.
Yeah, and I mean, the mortgage rate has gone through the roof because lots and lots of people are having to remortgage their houses because they're not getting any kind of rate.
Just to tread water, Mike.
Yeah, just to tread water.
But also, when the rating agencies and those lenders, when what they call swap rates, start to believe and feel that over the next 6 to 12 months, the UK economy isn't going to be very good as a consequence of that budget. I mean, it was supposed to be a budget for growth, for wealth, for people, for workers, and so on.
Yeah.
It's literally opposite. It was far, far worse, by the way, than the Truss budget. So the Truss budget, in my opinion, not much wrong with it apart from the way that it was delivered and announced.
Yeah.
But actually what Rachel Reeves' budget has turned into is something that all business leaders, I mean, all of them, and even people like Nick Candy, that actually donated to the Labour Party this time round, has now said, I'm now going to donate to Reform because you as a Labour Party, your budget is destroying jobs, destroying business confidence, going to destroy the economy.
Have you ever seen like that, the never-ending story with the Artex is the lovely grey horse, and he's sitting on Artex and you have to go through the swamp of fears, and if you have negative thoughts or if you're scared, you go slowly down into the
the abyss.
The abyss.
Never-ending
That's
story,
kind of like the Labour Party, us and the Labour Party
But you know
government,
the other
isn't it? Like,
mistake-
it's going to be terrible, everything's
But the other mistake
difficult.
that Rachel Reeves made, and it's a real schoolgirl error, frankly, was that the economy was starting to recover.
Yeah, I know,
until she popped up and said, by the way, the budget's going to be terrible.
Well, that's
it's
what
going to
I
be awful
mean.
because we're in a terrible
It was
place.
improving, wasn't it?
It was improving.
Absolutely.
Inflation had dropped, interest
like,
rates
we're
were
getting
dropping.
there.
So as a consequence of Labour trying to manage expectations to basically slate the Tories' last 14-year record, they've literally made it become a self-fulfilling prophecy that now we're back in a bad place again.
It's that swamp of fears.
dumb.
Yes, and homeowners are basically bearing the brunt of all these terrible policies at the most cashed press point in their lives. It's awful. I mean, it's shocking, and no one's speaking up for them. We've got no representatives.
You made a really good point about the Tories. We were talking about this earlier, whether Badenoch's any good or not, or just too young. They're not saying anything. There's no meat on the bone from the Tory party. You say they've gone. Maybe I said earlier and got howled at. I want more meat on the bone from Reform, not just immigration. That's what I was trying to say. Another thing, but I do think this is when she should be out there, loud and proud, giving it to this government. And there's nothing.
Well, because the one thing that they did actually do was steward the economy in a way which was a lot better than the way Labour have done it. And so it's the one strength they could talk about. Instead of which, she's going banging on about immigration all the time, Kerry Badenoch. And, you know, the Tories got nowhere to go there.
Yeah.
It's very, very
I kind of
interesting.
miss Rishi Sunak, if I'm honest.
No, let's not go.
No, he was still terrible.
I miss Boris Johnson.
He's the one who got all the immigration figures.
Yeah, he was quite keen on that. Anyway, over to you, Russell.
Quirky in a cardigan.
You've got the NHS.
I've got an old favourite, the NHS.
You got any props? Have you brought any nurses with you?
Well, I've got a digital prop. The NHS, which now costs us £200 billion a year, by the way, because obviously it's
still doesn't work.
Bigger and better funded, still doesn't work on the basis of ambulance response times, to such a degree that not only does it take so long now to wait for an ambulance, particularly if you've had, just a minor thing like, I don't know, a heart attack or something that might kill you, average waiting times now about an hour for such things, right? No. It's gone up and up and up and up. So guess what the NHS response is? And I kid you not, and I'm not jesting.
Whatever the response.
It is to say this: if you've experienced chest pains, if you feel that you may be having a heart attack,
or a stroke,
could you make your own way to the hospital, please? Because ambulances are busy. Who knew?
Yeah.
And particularly at winter time, and I don't know why winter is such a surprise every year for the NHS. I mean, kind of November, December.
Yeah, have they not got a calendar?
Pops up, doesn't it? You know, it gets a bit colder and so on. They're saying yes, because of winter time, it's going to be worse. And so yes, if you could just jump in a cab, jump on a bus, get a mate to bring you.
Russ, I'm not going to surprise you. You took more calls on this, I said this earlier, than almost anything. And I think sometimes, again, a bit like the Westminster bubble and politics. Yeah. One woman phoned the show earlier in the week and she spent 47 minutes. She went out to the kitchen, came back, her husband was having a heart attack. No. She's on the phone trying to get an ambulance and giving him CPR. He died in her arms. She said to me, he worked 40 years, he's never asked for jack. All he wanted was an ambulance. I want to make the point, though, it's not the paramedics, and I feel almost as sorry, if not more sorry, for those people in control centres who have to decide between the woman or
expand on that point a little, which is that actually partly, and by the way, this is not about funding, because the NHS has now got more money than ever. There are 13% more paramedics now than there were 3, 4, 5 years ago. This, again, is about culture, regime, organisation. But it's also about a very dumb public, in some respects, I have to say. Have a look at this.
Hello, ambulance. Is the patient breathing? Hello, I need some advice, darling, please. Is the patient breathing? Yeah, I'm all right. What advice is it that you need? I've got a box of eggs in the fridge, and the box has been open in the fridge overnight. And you keep the box of eggs open in the fridge.
This is the ambulance service. We can't advise you about eggs, I'm afraid.
Who can we ring?
Oh. No, that's real.
This isn't IVF fertiliser.
No. This is chicken eggs.
No.
So I found loads and loads
Just
of these on the
regular
internet.
eggs.
Loads of these on the internet earlier. So
people are actually that stupid.
Could I just, so someone rang up and said, I don't feel very well, I think I had a bad kebab. Somebody else rang and asked for directions to the hospital. And these are 999 call handlers. So I would just humbly suggest that part of the problem here might be a small element of society in Britain, I'm sure, that makes stupid calls to the ambulance service and tie the organisation up in knots like this.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. But at the end of the day, getting somebody into a vehicle and getting the vehicle to drive from point A to point B shouldn't actually be that difficult. And that's not
what
the
if you
hard
haven't
bit.
got, what if you haven't got a car or you can't afford a cab?
Well,
I'm
exactly.
being completely serious.
Yeah.
Well, I think they should just privatise it. Privatise it and give the whole
afford
thing to Uber. Make it the
Has
Uber ambulance
Has
service.
anyone actually thought that perhaps the big issue was actually just having a load of people come into the country and increasing the population by about 5 million?
What did I say earlier? I said this the other day.
And that everything's gone wrong.
Not only is it
surprise.
not only are our public sector creaking, and let's take your point, but let's say there aren't enough ambulances to go round. She's dead right. We're having people come to this country who've never paid their share to get an ambulance, and they're getting an ambulance.
No, but we
like
do
that.
have loads more paramedics than ever.
Do we have ambulances?
But you know, we have 9% of paramedics apparently off with mental health issues.
I can't
up from 5% 2 or 3
Russ,
years
I
ago,
always
which drives
agree
me
with you,
mad.
but I can't. I'm not going to criticise paramedics, and I'll tell you.
No, I'm just saying there are symptoms to this problem that include bad organisation, bad culture.
We called
It's
an
not just
ambulance
about
some
money.
years ago for Oliver. I told you this the other day. So it's genuinely true, and this would also perhaps sum up the bosses, not the paramedics. And he went listless. Anyway, very quickly, ambulance came. 2 girls, ladies, whatever you're supposed to say. What are you allowed to do?
Whatever.
And I was allowed, well, I don't want to upset you. And I'm in the ambulance with them, and this is what they told me, and this is from their bosses. Have I told you this already?
No.
If the edit from the bosses was, if you arrive on time and the patient's dead, or the patient dies when you're there, that's a tick. If you arrive late and you save the patient's life, that's a cross. That's the pressure these people are under. I think it goes higher, Russ.
It's a bad
Well, I think
It's a combination of multiple things.
I mean, again, like a lot of things the Labour government does, everything that they do in the NHS seems to be the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They don't seem to ever make the right decision about anything. And one of the reasons you can't get an ambulance is because there are ambulances, there's plenty of them, but they're all parked outside the hospital with
A&E.
people in them.
Yep.
And they can't
offload them into the hospital, which the hospitals
I mean,
are so badly
surely that's
organised.
not that difficult to fix.
Yeah.
You
They're
know,
not releasing the people out the hospital.
create
efficiently
another place to put them, you know.
Also, they can't really
Other
get
than the
to where they
corridor.
need
Yeah.
to be. They can't get to where they need to be either. Like when you see ambulances in London, you just like everyone just sits there.
That's
and no
Sadiq
one
Khan's
moves.
fault. That's why she didn't have a
20
bloody
mile per hour
knighthood.
and idiot drivers, you know.
Yeah,
And you're
but
just
also
like,
you
for
can't get
God's
past the cars because there's only one lane, and there's a
Yeah.
bus lane there and a cycle lane there, and you can't. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the advice that the NHS gives out. This was last Christmas or last winter, I should say, and they advised people. This was up in NHS Scotland. They advised people to practice walking like a penguin, so you don't fall down.
Now, is
on the
this
ice.
walking like
I'm
a
not
penguin,
joking.
or have these people got something wrong with their backside?
Well, you might say they need
They're in
to
the middle of pooing.
change their pants. You know, it does look a bit like that.
Oh, dear.
But no,
I'm finished.
this was genuinely advice given out by NHS Scotland to tell how older people should walk around in
So
Scotland.
as not to fall over on the ice.
Yeah.
Was that when that bloke was in charge, the one that was hopeless? What was he called?
And what, useless?
Yes.
Hamza.
The man who came off the scooter.
Hamza
Was that him
useless.
doing that? He could have
Yeah.
done that, couldn't he?
Well, do you know, it would be maybe if you're really that worried about walking on ice, maybe you should tell people not to go out.
Yeah.
No? Rather than doing that.
Or maybe the council could actually grit the pavements and the roads. That'd be a good idea.
That's a good idea.
All
What
those
about
maps.
that? Anyway, listen, we've finished the first bit already. Coming up
Gone
on the
rather
next
well.
bit, we're going to talk about Christmas crackers because there's a cracker story to tell you about that. We've got Angela Rayner as well, who's getting mentioned, and some bloke who thinks he's got a good idea. He wants to marry his first cousin. This is Plank of the Week. So, Christmas is coming, as I said. It's only a week away, practically. You know, amazing. I don't know if you bought
Oh,
any...
yes, it's a week away.
Yeah,
That's
I don't know whether you've bought any Christmas crackers this year, but, you know, most people
Alex
get Christmas...
Phillips isn't for sale.
Very good. We'll have the Christmas... we'll film the Christmas special next week. You can dress up for that if you wish. Anyway, down in Parliament, of course, they have to be a bit more careful about these things because they don't wish to upset anybody. So they've actually issued some special crackers down in Parliament for MPs and stuff. You know, they've got a shop there. You can buy, House of Commons whiskey. You can buy House of Commons, napkins.
And merch.
T-shirts and that kind of thing. Probably, no, I was going to say something I probably shouldn't. No, I'm not going to say it. Anyway, you can now buy crackers, but they don't make any noise. So when you pull them, it doesn't go bang. It just kind of goes,
Now watch their faces. They told me this yesterday. Why do you think that is? See if they can
Who's
guess
that
this.
going to upset?
Why, no, but why do you think that is?
Well, is it so that you don't trigger a heart attack because there's no ambulances to get the people?
Well, there is that. There is that possibility. It's meant to, apparently it's supposed to be good for the climate. I don't know how, but also they're a bit worried about the neurodiverse people who might get upset if they hear a loud bang like that.
I'm sorry, I'm traumatised. Sorry. Can you call an ambulance? No.
Now, inside of the cracker, there's a little note, right? And this is what it says. Let's make some noise. We have removed the snap from this cracker to ensure it is completely recyclable. Part of our journey to make every Christmas a celebration of responsibility.
You just want to get the cracker and throw it in the
celebration of responsibility.
What on earth is
but
that?
Isn't Christmas the opposite of that?
That's the most horrible thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
But Puritans
sanitised.
cannot help themselves. You can't enjoy Christmas too much. I mean, we can't have fun and revelry.
Sanitised Christmas with no bangs.
And Christmas crackers have been on sale in Parliament since 1860, right?
Imagine going through Christmas without a bang.
I know. It's hopeless, isn't it? Over to you, Angela Rayner.
Sorry,
Angela Rayner.
I'm slightly on not dodgy ground because some part of me thinks that Angela Rayner is fantastic. I don't even know why I think that. Just hear me out, right? But actually, there was this incredibly awful interview on Sky this week. Have you seen this?
There was a few. Let's have a look at it. We've got it here. She's talking to Trevor Phillips.
5 out of 7 new homes will go to immigrants.
Well, that's not the truth, and that's not the
That's
case.
what will happen.
Well, that's not the reality because we've,
where
in
the
particular, in
where the
social
2.5
housing-
million immigrants that are in Rachel Reeves' budget figures going to turn up? Where are they going to live?
Well, there's plenty of housing in the UK, but the houses, especially social
whoa,
and
hang on.
affordable
You can't,
homes
on
that
the one
we're
hand,
building.
say we've got to build this 1.5 million houses and then say there's plenty of housing already.
Yeah, well, she can, and she did.
Well, our future's safe in her hands. I mean, she's so off her brief. As to be
off the brief, because he disappeared off to Dubai in the Middle East, Starmer, just as Syria cracked off. And in fact, they asked her about housing, but they also asked her about what was going on in Syria. And it was
She doesn't even know where Syria is.
Well, she suggested that she just become a democracy, which
it was actually very painful. And we were talking about this earlier and saying that Labour politicians, they always have Kev was really rude about John Prescott, the late John Prescott, and said they're all buffoons. Actually, Prescott had something about him. He was a shop steward. He threw a punch. She looks massively, massively out of her depth.
She does.
You saw that interview. And here's a thought for you. What if Starmer is thrown out? That would be our Prime Minister.
I don't think it would work like that. I don't think that would happen. But the other problem
Really?
that you've got with all of them, you said she doesn't probably know where Syria is. David Lammy also doesn't know where Syria is. He actually thinks that Syria and Libya are neighbouring countries.
Is it time for Lammy or Mastermind? You know, I ask every time
I know
I'm
every
on the
time,
show.
and every time I say it to Chuck, and every time he says no. But I mean, I can give you Angela Rayner responding to that interview with Trevor Phillips.
Oh, let's have a listen.
Our Kia rang me very early in the morning and he said, you need to go down to the Sky News studios and do an interview with Sir Trevor. And I went, when? And he said, now, go now. And I said, but I'm absolutely hanging from the night before. I was doing my Christmas decks and I knocked back a few sherries. He said, I don't care, just go now. I absolutely love Sir Trevor MacDonald, so I'm quite happy for him to interview me. He's notoriously very gentle when he interviews people, so I thought that would be fine. Got there, realised, got my Trevors mixed up because it was actually Sir Trevor Phillips, and he's tough. And I thought, oh no. So I tried to soften it a little bit. I took the knee before the interview. He wasn't interested. He was confusing me. He was saying things like out of the frying pan and into the fire. And I thought, don't think about food. I was so hungry. And then he mentioned something about a black-legged kitty wake. And I thought, I don't know all the drag queens, Trevor. It's too early in the morning for that.
She is great. She is great, isn't she?
Brilliant.
But I mean, actually, Angela Rayner's original version of Angela Rayner, her own version, is even funnier than that. Because, you know, when they asked her about Syria, she literally didn't know anything at all. No. She was like, well, we're excited.
They got rid of her after one day and had Pat McFadden, the enforcer, out. I think that she's undoubtedly there, isn't she, because of the unions. I mean, Starmer wouldn't have picked, but he has to pick her. That is symptomatic of what we've now got. That's our deputy prime minister.
Isn't it great now that we have a successor to Diane Abbott that used to be the one that we would kind of take the rise out of constantly for being
mother of the house
inept. Now it's Angela Rayner. Fantastic.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's move on. Alex Phillips, you have somebody called Iqbal Mohamed.
Yeah, now he is an independent MP and he's the one that dared raise his head above the parapet and decide to level objection in the House of Commons to people trying to ban, I don't know, incest.
Yes.
You know, basically cousin marriage, which we have a huge problem with in the United Kingdom.
Very popular in Tennessee.
We've got a massive problem with cousin marriage in the United
Columbus,
Kingdom.
Ohio.
Met my cousin.
The truth is, let's be honest about this. This isn't medieval times anymore. This isn't like Henry VII marrying his cousin in, you know, like some sort of strange Central European principality. No, what's going on is basically this is one particular community. This is largely Pakistani, Bangladeshi communities within the Muslim community, essentially. And they've got a sort of propensity to marry their cousins. And as a result, there's a whole raft of issues, medical conditions that people have. Because, hey, don't do that. You've got to mix up the gene pool, right? Basic biology.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up with a Habsburg jaw. Yeah. We learnt that in the Middle Ages.
Right.
They haven't figured it out yet.
Habsburg jaw?
So this
What's
guy...
a Habsburg jaw?
It's like nothing.
You know your history when the Habsburgs, the Habsburg Empire.
Yeah,
and they all had that first cousin marriage and they had a chin that made that one look from McFly or Jimmy Hill look kind of normal. Yeah. Like you could basically scoop things up with that.
Yeah. Bruce Forsyth.
Yeah. These all, I mean, they were sort of like
Cuddly
minor Habsburg jaws. The actual Habsburg jaw was like a...
Yeah, it's the thing. Well, let's have a look at Iqbal making the case, shall we?
An estimated 35 to 50% of all sub-Saharan African populations either prefer or accept cousin marriages, and it is extremely common in the Middle East and in South Asia. The reason the practice is so common is that ordinary people see family intermarriage overall as something that is very positive, something that helps build family bonds and helps put families on a more secure financial foothold.
I can see how it builds family bonds.
I mean, there's fewer people to have to put on, you know, like birthday cards for, isn't there? So, guys, it's our uncle's birthday, yay!
I mean, I must say, these people have the same grandparents.
In another life,
it's not...
I might say in another life, I tended to cover a lot of this. I'm not altogether sure whether Mr. Iqbal is merely basically touching his forelock to his constituents.
Yeah, but
how can anybody genuinely stand up and say
He goes on to say, I love the fact he points at the sub-Saharan Africans first. I'm like, no, mate, wrong demographic. Yeah. But he goes on to say, no, what we should be doing is having more medical care. So when people end up, like that, they get better looked after. They get genetics testing.
Was he also not suggesting that...
don't procreate with your cousin.
Right. Was he not also suggesting that it would be better if we just kind of told people not to do it rather than actually make a law so that it's actually illegal? Because you can imagine...
sleep with your cousin.
Yeah. To be honest, I, like most people that have spoken about this story since it happened this week, I thought it was already illegal.
Yes.
Because when I was growing up, I'm pretty sure my parents told me that, whenever we had a conversation, you can marry your second cousin if you want, but not your first cousin. I'm sure I was told that.
I thought it was illegal. Maybe we just sort of ignored the fact that loads of people were doing it.
Growing up, right? That's
I don't know, what sort of weird families are you from where you had to be sat down and told, please don't fall in love with your cousin?
No.
Inbuilt.
I cannot imagine it. I mean, all the kids I've got now and my nephews and nieces, it'd be horrifying. Absolutely horrifying.
I love that. He said it's good for family bond.
Yeah, good for family
bond. You can be each other's carers and you have to pay.
And also, what's the point of saying, it's very popular in Southeast Asia and in Sub-Saharan Africa? Well, it might well be, but we don't live there.
No.
We live in Britain.
Yeah. So it's stoning people to death.
In some cultures, so is marrying 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
9 in Iran, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is it Iraq? One of them.
I think they've lowered it to 9 in Iran now.
Yeah.
Because 12
is far too old.
Getting a bit old, for heaven's sake. Yeah.
But he's just playing to an audience, isn't he? He can't genuinely be standing up and saying, I'm going to advocate a practice that causes medical catastrophe.
Has anyone asked his wife?
Well... What, you mean his cousin?
Well, we don't know, do you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing.
No, if you actually look at the statistics on this, the rates are ridiculously high. It's mad. It's not just like, 1 in 100
But it's
people
very
in the
much of a
community marry their
tribal
cousin.
thing,
It's
isn't
kind
it?
of, it's a huge amount.
And you know more about this probably than anybody, but in certain parts of the world, where the tribal kind of leaders are in charge, and you have not just an arranged marriage, but you'll have some kind of marriage
in-house,
which is in the family, as it were.
And that's the other thing that went on from that discussion later in the day, wasn't it? Arranged marriage, and everybody started piling in on that as well. But yeah, you're right. Growing up, we would absolutely.
I'm sure we were told that. I mean, I certainly haven't been anywhere
Maybe they
near
just
any of
need
my
like a
first
special
cousins.
feature where they mix together that You and Me 23 or whatever with Shardy.com.
She's sending hair off to
What's
get.
she talking
I don't
about?
know what she's going.
I don't know what she's talking about. We should probably stop now.
Someone watching does.
Get the cider in.
Yeah, somebody will tell us. Coming up next, we're going to look at some more Christmas items and, of course, the British Security Service news as well. This is Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. It's now time for Candice and your number 2 nomination.
Yes, so this
As you said, nomination.
There we are.
So this is the Very Merry Christmas Cactus in Trafalgar Square, which is just the most miserable-looking thing anyone has ever seen. They had a hilarious light-up ceremony, which was just wah-wah. There have been so many funny memes about it. There was one like contrasting it with New York, with like this incredible tree, which gets everyone in the mood for Christmas, and then the
one at
Christmas
Rockefeller
cactus.
Centre. To be fair, the Trafalgar Square tree always is crap, isn't it? Let's have a look.
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Wow. You can hear the crowd, can't you? Being completely underwhelmed.
Better. That's actually better than the one they had a couple of years ago, which looked like it had been set on fire.
Oh,
It literally looked
that rather does sum up where we're at, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To be fair.
It really does.
I mean, it's still better than Keir Starmer's version, it has to be said. 4, 3, 2, 1. Way!
Snap. So the country is in such a glum, downtrodden place that we can't even cheer ourselves up with a decent Christmas tree in Trafalgar Square.
It's such low effort.
Is it still coming from Norway?
Norway.
It's coming from Norway, but as I said, it's eco-miserabilism. They've even been saying, the Norwegians, that we need to consider the tree's carbon footprint.
But do we choose it, or do they just send us anything they want? So are they trolling us?
The Norwegians make all their money from oil. What are they talking about?
How does it get here? Does it take about 8 months on a boat? Is
Yes.
that eco-friendly? By which time it's dead.
Well, not that one. They could have put it in an envelope and sent it over, couldn't they?
Well, it's got those horrible energy-efficient lights.
One of those big giant things that you wrap it up on, but it's on the port before it goes on the ship.
It's
You know,
got
when the guy goes,
energy-efficient
I'll just put
Put it in the back of the Range
put a
Rover.
stand on the bottom.
I've actually seen.
Well, we gave up doing that, a few years ago because it's such a pain in the neck.
we do it.
Going
We
to
do
the
it.
Christmas tree farm, where if you're the person who you happen to be cohabiting with can't make up their mind as to which one they want, and it goes on.
Yeah, and the worst thing to do is take your kids, because then you've got about 6
and
or
the
7
kids are going, what about this one? No, it hasn't got enough bush on it. Okay, then let's go and look for a more bushy one, shall we? And then get some more lights, because when you get home, the lights don't work, and you've had them for years. They're all tangled up. You go up in the loft,
And also, without being a downer, someone should also do an index of Christmas tree prices. Have you seen how much we just paid 90 quid for a 7 foot?
I'll tell you what, I was in Tesco's.
How big is it?
7 foot tall.
So mine's 6 foot, 55 quid.
Yeah, but
and
you live out west, though, don't you?
that was from Kensington. That's the
Was it?
richest borough in
west.
all of London. That's not bad.
What about your tree, Jeremy? Have you got one?
Myself.
So we gave up real trees.
Yes,
but
I did the same.
My wife's pretty obsessed. So we've got the white one in one room and the green one in another room, and it's beautiful.
But they're plastic.
Yes, but they look
This is
amazing.
how you know you've got too big of a house. You've got more than one Christmas
No, that's a
tree.
rented house. I'm moving into the nice house too. But no, seriously. But I quite like, in the old days we did all that, but he's absolutely right. It was hell on earth, wasn't it, to go and get it and then leave pine needles every day and then buy like Christmas.
Did you ever
things,
do that
like
other thing? When you get we had one of those skirts that goes around the bush, right? And
you need a skirt around the bush.
You do, generally speaking. And you had a stand, of course, and you have to put water into the stand before, right? Because if you don't put the water in, the leaves start dropping earlier.
Love.
And then you put it all up, everything's up, and then you go, we forgot to put a skirt on it. And then you have to take it all down again. Put the skirt on.
What is wrong with you?
Hey?
This is why Britain's gone to hell in a handcart when 2 grown-ass men can't even manage to put a Christmas tree up without moaning.
All right, so
what has happened to men in this country?
Household,
I'll tell you.
Did your boyfriend
I will show
do
you.
it?
I will show you.
Yeah,
I will show you.
went there.
I'm going to blimmin' show you the messages to my boyfriend because I walked 4 blocks up, bought a tree, 6-footer, dragged it home
you're
with
from
my own
Gloucester.
bare hands,
Yeah,
put it in
hardy.
the stand by
Like a
myself,
deliverance company.
put it
Yeah.
up on the thing, tested all my Christmas
Are you
lights,
from Gloucester?
wrapped it all up.
Yeah, she's like
Gloucester.
Tess of the D'Urbervilles.
I went 4 blocks and dragged it home. We're not talking about some man. Was it a tree?
Me, I
She probably stopped
She
the
chopped
side
it down in the
What is
forest.
Stopped the
I
side
did
on the way back.
everything.
Sweeney was there.
What were you doing in the forest in the first place?
Were you looking for wild boar?
No, I
down
love
there?
a wild boar. In fact, you know what I did after I decorated
Forest
my
of
tree?
Dean.
I used my mincing machine and I
Your
made
what?
some
What?
homemade faggots.
Mincing machine.
You
Yeah.
can't say mincing and you can't say faggots.
Hang on.
Same
Well, I
same
did.
Hang on. You're telling me that I'm a pain in the neck for moaning about Christmas trees. You've got a mincing machine.
I got a mincing machine and
Why
I
do you
minced
need a
up my
mincing
odds and
machine?
ends, my entrails and stuff.
Your
and I
entrails?
made some homemade faggots,
Sorry,
yeah,
whose
and then I
entrails?
boiled up my bones that I get from the farmer.
Bones?
Whose entrails is she?
Crikey.
Sorry, you've got the bones.
Sounds like a crime scene.
The farmer's. Oh, no, I'm confused, right? So you've got farmer's
I
given
feel
you
like
a
it's a shame.
bone, which you've turned into
Bone-
mincemeat, which has become a faggot.
The bone makes the bone broth, the stock that I'm then going to cook the faggots in.
What's a faggot?
It's a meatball.
It's a meatball. It's all bits of like
It's a
offal.
giant meatball.
But it's got
And then you
offal
mince it
in
all up and you wrap it up in
Why do you want
coal.
to eat that?
This show has gone completely off the rails.
Christmas in Gloucestershire is a very different prospect, isn't it?
I tell you who's
Yeah.
famous
I'll tell
in
you what.
Gloucestershire. Who's the
I'll
most
tell you
famous
what.
person in Gloucestershire?
Hang on.
West.
We're gonna take it away from Gloucester and the mincing machine, and let's have a man who doesn't like Christmas trees.
London is said to be one of the best cities in the world, with one of the worst decoration of Christmas tree. But don't call this Christmas tree. This look like a cactus tree. Look at the worst tree in the world. This does not look like Christmas tree. It looks like a cactus tree. People are laughing and looking at this tree.
He's not wrong, is he?
That's the Trafalgar
He's
Square
right.
tree.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Crikey. Anyway, Russell.
Yeah, let me tell
Over
you
to
about.
you.
Did you ever eat a faggot?
Do you want
Not
to see a
even
picture of my faggots?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to show
I'll
you.
leave them to it.
Yeah, leave
I'll
so
show you a picture of
let's
my
talk about the
Christmas tree.
MI5,
Yes.
MI6 and GCHQ have unfortunately gone the same way as many government departments and gone woke.
Gone a bit woke.
Yeah, so this is a recruitment advert this week from the security services that says they're looking for interns, so they want to kind of bring people in to be future spies, I guess. But rather
Well, I
than...
mean, given what James Bond is doing this week,
Well,
and
there
with
won't-
Daniel Craig talking about, all of this strange stuff that he's... I don't know what he's doing to himself. You see how he's dressed?
He's like Bono, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's done a bit,
but
a bit weird.
as a consequence of what they've decided to do, which is effectively to say that as far as interns being recruited are concerned, they will only allow applications from ethnic minorities specifically, and also ethnic minorities that come from a socially disadvantaged background. So no more James Bond in the future. It will be, I guess, James Ranganathan and Jane Ogdenbogo.
Well, he's had every other gig, hasn't he, Roman Ranganathan, to be honest?
No more Bond, Smith, Taylor, Phillips, Kyle, Graham, none of that anymore. Effectively, the security service had said whites are not allowed. Chris Phillips, of course, our Shadow Home Secretary, guess what he said about it? He's gone right out on a lim, and he's right, and he said, this is racism.
What is?
It is,
It's
isn't it?
reverse racism. And actually,
Ridiculous.
what's really interesting about that is this whole country has got to a point where, in this quest for diversity and all those things that people do, it's from the opposite direction. And if you're 21, 22, whatever you are, and you're white and you're middle class and you fancied a career, we did this story in the week, in the security services, it's a no-go. How is that not racist? How is that not reverse racist?
But also, if you are a white, straight, middle-aged man, you are now, in my contention, the most oppressed demographic in Britain. You've got no chance of getting a job. You've got no chance of becoming selected for a parliamentary position because everybody else takes precedence. Women, people that are disabled.
Is that why you're
people of the-
unemployed and you
Well,
can't
that's
get
why
into
I'm certainly
Parliament?
unemployable.
Strike keeps turning up here. There's not many people who give him any
But the
work.
only people who have me.
Yeah. It is ridiculous, though, isn't it?
No, but it's woke too far, but it's actually racist. Can you imagine if it was the other way around?
No.
I know it's
Oh, my
easy
God.
to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what if? But seriously, if a particular government department or a private sector establishment said, well, actually, we've got too many blacks and Asians in our business or our department, so for the next 4 or 5 weeks, we're only recruiting white people. Can you imagine? I mean, A, it would be a criminal offence.
Yeah.
Well, why isn't it the other way around? But it's just beyond the pale.
Yeah.
It should be based on merit.
But the DEI crowd would say, well, of course, we have to do this because we have to rebalance You know, the fact that you've got too many white people working there, and so therefore we have to exclude them because they've already got all the jobs.
DEI.
DEI, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Let's rename them DIE.
Yeah. Well, do you know, it's interesting because over in America, a lot of the big firms in America have now kicked DEI out of the way.
Yeah.
All the Wall Street companies are not doing it anymore. People like Goldman Sachs, they're not doing it anymore. And they're just going, you know what? The banking business is going back to what it was like. Yeah. So it's all down the strip club on a Friday night like they used to do.
Absolutely.
Getting a phone call.
But why?
I'm going to ignore it.
Yeah, I would ignore it,
Yeah. Be bad manners to take that right now. I think it's like my car being
Unless
serviced.
it's somebody that's really, really important. You have to
I think it's somebody who wants a faggots, to be honest.
Could well be.
I think it's the garage booking my car in for a service.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you don't need it. So, Candice, what about it? Is the woke revolution over, though?
I feel like we're maybe a little bit behind America on this. There are some things that we've had the conversation on that they haven't had, like the whole gender critical trans thing. I feel like that conversation's been won here and they're still having it in the US.
Yeah.
But it's so true, this diversity and equity and inclusion thing. Institutions are still very captured by that here.
Right.
And we've still got to have a really tough conversation about it.
But it's public sector, isn't it, more than anything else? Although quite a lot of private companies are doing it as well. Because it's all about Stonewall. It's all about Stonewall giving you, you know, their seal of approval. And if you get their seal of approval, you get more investment, you get more kind of pats on the head.
Imagine in the old days, it used to be getting a royal warrant from Her Majesty the Queen. You know,
it did.
Providing biscuits to the public, you know, Huntley and Palmer.
I don't know if they still do that.
That was what my old man's job was, right? So now, if you get a Stonewall certificate, that's good for your business.
It is.
But is it, or is it just virtue signalling?
But there are even venture capital funds now where they'll only lend you money or invest in your business if you tick enough DEI boxes. You know, in terms of proportion of staff that are either female, ethnic minority, etc. You know, do you have some big green plan as part of your kind of business strategy? It's just all absolute nonsense that gets in the way.
Two female members.
That's exactly why. It's a
Yeah,
DEI manoeuvre. Yeah.
So
Well, they used to call Kamala Harris the DEI candidate, didn't they? Because that's the only reason she got the job.
Yeah, look where that ended.
I know. Didn't end well.
But it's true. I mean, even really serious commentators like Lionel Shriver said that. She was the DEI candidate. Everyone knew it in their bones.
Yeah, absolutely right. And going back to Christmas, you can go down to your local supermarket and get gingerbread people. You don't get gingerbread men anymore. No. It's gingerbread people.
Yeah,
so Victoria bought him a gingerbread house. That's all I know. But if there's a gingerbread people in it, I'm going to tear it up.
No, there might be.
No
gender non-specific. There'll be non-binary.
Yeah, there were no genitalia for the gingerbread.
I don't want genitalia on my gingerbread man. Do I?
Don't? Well, how do you know he's a man then? Come on. I mean, you know, it's just facts that have to be
I just saw this thing
about.
with Ricky Gervais this weekend. I know we've done this before. And he was just saying, I don't like those women. You know, the old-fashioned ones. You know, the ones that have a womb. I mean, I don't like them. I mean, it was just brilliant.
The ones without a penis.
Yeah, he said that's a bit weird, isn't it? A woman with a womb.
Yeah. Coming back, we're going to talk about some climate change because you may or may not have heard of a woman called Emma Pinchbeck. But I have, and I'm going to tell you all about her coming next. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We're in the final furlong, unbelievably. And there's a woman called Emma Pinchbeck that I want to bring to your attention. I hadn't heard of her before, but I saw her last weekend. She appeared on the BBC, Laura Kunsberg's show, right? And it turns out that she's now working for the government. She is the chief executive of the Climate Change Committee. Now, you might not know there was such a thing as the Climate Change Committee, but it's publicly funded and she's in charge of it. And basically, she's a key advisor to the UK government on climate and emissions policy.
Right.
Right? I don't know how much she gets paid, but I would imagine it's quite well into the six figures. But this is a woman who you cannot help but immediately dislike, right? Have a look at her.
You mentioned you're getting a second-hand electric vehicle.
Yeah, I've got one.
You've got one?
Got one.
You're going through the process of getting a heat pump.
Yes.
Are there other things that you have done in your life to try to be a greener citizen?
I actually think there is a double standard for people in jobs like this, and I'm fine with it, as in I would imagine people watching expect me to do more because of the work that I do. So I don't eat very much meat. We've eaten a little bit since having the children just because I want them to experience all tastes and flavours.
I mean, really?
She later on goes on to talk about how she doesn't really fly anymore, except if it's really necessary. and she had to go, obviously, to Azerbaijan for COP29.
Of course she did.
So that was
With
okay.
470
It was
other people in
okay
the
to
government.
fly there.
Yeah, yeah.
But she tells the kids that,
But at least...
mostly they go on trains, and she went on her honeymoon on a train.
Yeah, but at least she fits right in with the whole government narrative, which is one of absolute double standards, which she's just admitted are absolutely
But is she
fine.
not like the absolute epitome of a simpering, sort of middle-class, absolutely entitled idiot?
But why do you need
everybody else? And she doesn't even have a heat pump, right? But she's getting one.
Well, she's getting one because she's got the job,
because
right?
she's got
she
the
wasn't
job.
going to get one
Right.
otherwise, was she? But why do we need her in this stupid committee at great expense? We've got Ed Miliband.
Because we know that Labour is obsessed with quangos and committees and let's spend
67 of them,
GB energy. But I go back to something I said at the beginning. She, her, that person. Pinchbeck. Has she?
Good name.
Good name.
Yeah. Do the Labour Party, do the government genuinely believe that she will resonate with... I always use Beryl in Rochdale because she phones the show and I love her. She's worked all her life. She's going to freeze to death probably this winter because she hates the fact the government are taking away. She's going to look at that woman and go, what the hell are you talking about? I can't warm my house. I can't get a doctor's appointment. I can't get Jack. I see what's happening in terms of immigration and I'm listening to this twaddle.
No, but what I genuinely don't
This is
understand
ridiculous.
is... So you've got a government in office now with Ed Miliband at the helm of the whole silly net zero rubbish nonsense thing that we don't need. Why do they also need a committee and this spokesperson? What is she...
To provide him with advice.
Well, because the whole thing is a business, right? The whole business
Yeah.
of the green energy business is money. It's all
Yes.
about
It's a business,
creating jobs. Guess
Dale
what this
Vince
woman did
included.
before, right? Before she had this job, she was Deputy CEO of Renewable UK, which will be another company full of people
Is it
like
fair to
her.
say I've never met her and I hate her?
No,
A bit like Dale
this is what I mean. I
Vince's
took just
eco-Christity.
instant dislike to her. Before that, she was head of climate change at the World Wildlife Fund.
Can we talk about the farting cows?
Yeah, if you want.
Well, there's quite a good link.
Well, it is, yeah.
Because
What
that's
have you got
the
to say
latest
about the
thing,
farting
isn't it?
cows?
This Bovair thing, which I don't care whether it's safe or... It's just stupid.
No.
They're like trying to feed the cows this weirdo medicine in with their, grain or whatever when they were sort of reared indoors to stop them farting because that's them reared indoors.
Is that reared
Yeah, they're
indoors?
sort of
They can
stuck,
put that
aren't they?
sign
in a pen.
on the...
This is a happy cow in a field. That's reared
is
indoors.
that one? Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
That's
Is that because...
That's a dead cow.
Is that
That's a
because...
dead cow. That's BSE.
because the cow married its cousin?
But this is the thing. But this is the thing, right? We lived through BSE. I remember BSE, keenly.
Yeah.
It was
and
ghoulish.
also, was it not Whitty who had ordered the deaths of all the cows?
Yes.
Do you know where Whitty's from?
Whitty.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Whitty's from Gloucester.
Can I just ask,
yeah.
are you talking... Is that foot and mouth thing?
Yeah.
I was working, this is true, up north.
But it was similar. It was
And I was living on this amazing place in a little cottage. And I do a radio programme till
You had
1
to walk
o'clock in the
through
morning. Mate, I had to get out the car and walk in the
Disinfectant,
thing
yeah.
and open the gate and walk in the thing.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
8 bloody bar gates up his drive. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. But I mean, this is the thing. Now they're giving the indoor rearing cows for a start, which is a problem. Cows eat grass, live outside, fart as much as you like.
Yeah.
The idea that cow farts actually or belches cause climate change is ridiculous.
Well, actually, no, that's not true because the methane that they produce is actually more dangerous than every plane that flies around.
All right, Pinchbeck.
Right? It is. But it's not about... No, but the point is that is not a position that's held by climate change.
What about you when you've been to the
fanatics.
pub? Are we going to give you some special
But the point
anti-farting
is that the reason why this is important is because actually all of the emissions from all of the planes and all of the cars and all the stuff that you get, the methane that comes from animals.
Are you for the Bovair?
No, I don't care what you give the cows. I'm going to eat them at the end anyway. The point is that the point is that the fact that the methane is so bad for the planet shows you that the other
we should
stuff.
have a vote. Who wants their cows to fart?
The other
I
climate,
do.
the other climate stuff
Just
doesn't
me?
matter.
No, but it can't. But we've had cows for quite some time.
My
They're not a
mother-
new
my
thing, are
mother
they?
used to say
So
that
if
how-
they're that bad,
Yeah.
how we survive for 2, 3, 4,
Well, when I say
5,000 years
bad,
with
what I'm saying is that the climate nutters who say that we have to stop flying, and we have to stop driving in cars. The amount of pollution that all of that causes is much less.
Can I just suggest
than the
that
methane.
we follow the money behind this product? I don't want to sound like a cynic here, but I suspect if you look at the people that have invested in the business that produces that particular product, I suspect you'll find some very interesting individual names and companies behind that product, which is why it's being pushed and advanced.
But also, they're like,
towards us.
oh, it's all fully safe. We're going to be running a test in the UK. I'm like, well, it's not. You're testing then, aren't you?
Yeah, but without
Like
asking
a
us,
tester, it's
but without
safe.
asking the consumer.
Yeah.
Just by the way, in
don't want
case you
that
were
stuff.
wondering if you need any more reasons to hate this Emma Pinchbeck woman, do you know where she lives?
Gloucester.
In the Cotswolds.
Near Gloucester.
Of course.
Near Soho House.
Yeah, probably.
Where she goes for Sunday
So it sounds
afternoon
like
lunch
she
and
might
goes
have
for
made
it.
some money out of climate change. Funny that.
Well, I mean, that's all she's ever
Who
done
knew?
is work in the climate change business.
Yep.
because that's where the money is.
Ka-ching.
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 It's
Because
so
you wouldn't
true.
believe how many foundations there are that are run by, sort of megalomaniac millionaires and billionaires in America. They hand out hundreds of millions of pounds. The EU gives them loads of money. Our government gives them loads of money. If you want to make money, get into the green
Do you know
business.
what I'm thinking? I might go down Wuhan to that lab and see if they can devise something to put in beer to stop men farting.
Yeah, well, it's a noble cause.
I don't drink beer. I've never drunk
Go down
beer.
the Horseshoe. Would you have special anti-fart beer?
There's a lot of problems in that pub, I'll tell you.
I don't like the assumption.
Well, ever
that
since
men-
people stopped smoking in pubs, it's got a lot more unpleasant.
I don't like the
that
assumption
way.
that it's only men that break women.
Yeah, Alex, you have to advocate it in cider also, presumably, your favourite
It's
tipple.
not very farty,
Oh,
cider.
isn't it?
No.
This show has taken some very odd turns.
It's not very
Anyway, it's time
farty.
for me.
Aye,
Odd
can I just say
turns.
climate change, apples, trees,
Phillips.
nature?
Phillips,
All right.
the doctors have arrived. We're taking you back in a
Get
minute.
back on your
Calm down.
meds, for heaven's sake. Now, we have to decide who's going to win, because it has to be, for me, be between, probably, Iqbal Hussein Mohamed,
You know.
Blank
Insane
of the
Mohammed.
Week, right?
Insane Mohammed.
Angela Rayner, very possibly, I would have to say. Trafalgar Square's not bad. Emma Pinchbeck, I just don't like her. I don't think she's Plank of the Week. What do you reckon? Sadiq Khan or
Gotta be Iqbal.
I think it's a shoo-in.
I think it's got to be
Hang on,
Iqbal.
any man that advocates the marriage of cousins, I think it's got to win.
Iqbal Hussein Mohamed, Labour
Yes.
MP. It says Labour MP. He's not a Labour MP.
He's independent.
He's an independent MP.
Was he, without being rude, one of these people that stood on a
I think he got in on the Gaza,
The Gaza vote, right? Yeah, I
yeah.
wondered.
So Iqbal Hussein Mohamed, you are Plank of the Week.
I love that noise.
Along with your first cousin. Thank you very much indeed to Jeremy Kyle and, of course, Alex Phillips and Candice Holdsworth and Russell Quirk. We'll see you next time.